Gelatin. Carmine, which is crushed insects. Vitamin D3, taken from sheep's wool. Those are 3 animal ingredients that hide in yogurt beyond the obvious milk. No allergen line will ever catch a single one of them, and together, they mean the cup you eat every morning is not vegan. We pulled the ingredient list on 10 of the biggest yogurt brands in America, and the worst offenders are the diet cup, the children's tube, and this is the one that hurts, a plant-based one. Number 1 admits the insects in its own corporate FAQ. 10 to avoid, 3 that actually are vegan. If you want a channel that reads the back of the label so you never have to trust the front, subscribe. That is the entire job here. Number 10. Chobani, the brand that made yogurt feel like real food again. Thick, high protein, simple ingredients. The cup you reach for when you are being honest with yourself. Your test, the non-fat Greek. Strawberry on the bottom, 5.3 ounce cup. Read the whole list, not the first 3 words. And here I have to give Chobani credit. The published ingredient list reads, cultured non-fat milk, strawberries, cane sugar, water, fruit pectin, natural flavors, guar gum, locust bean gum, fruit and vegetable juice concentrate for color, lemon juice concentrate, no gelatin, no carmine, thickener from fruit, color from vegetables, and that is genuinely cleaner than most of this aisle. Pretending otherwise would make everything else here worthless. Ownership, privately held, under founder Hamdi Ulukaya. No ingredient enforcement action on the record. Revenue hammer. In April 2025, the company announced a $1.2 billion dairy plant in New York. A 30-year bet on cows. Whatever anyone says about the future of food, the capital says milk. Social proof. The brand people name to prove the aisle is fine now. It is doing enormous work for everything shelved next to it. Verdict. The cleanest label of any dairy yogurt here, and still not vegan, because no cow's milk product ever will be. Credit where due. Put it back anyway. But the next one promises you 3 kinds of nothing, and quietly delivers one thing you never agreed to. Number 9. Oikos 000. 0 added sugar, 0 artificial sweeteners, 0 fat. The gym bag yogurt, bought because 15 grams of protein, feels like a supplement, not a dessert. Your test. Look past the enormous zeros on the front and read the last 4 words of the ingredient statement. The published ingredient list for Oikos 000 mixed berry reads, cultured grade A non-fat milk, water, contains less than 1% of natural flavors, tapioca starch, fruit and vegetable juice concentrate for color, stevia leaf extract, lemon juice concentrate, sea salt, vitamin D3. Be precise, no gelatin, no carmine. Anyone telling you otherwise is guessing. The whole problem is that last ingredient, and this is the first time it appears, so here is the phrasing I will use every time, because it is the only accurate one. Food-grade vitamin D3 is most commonly derived from sheep's wool lanolin, and the manufacturers here do not disclose their source. Ownership, Danone. Revenue hammer, full year 2025 net sales of 27,283 million euros, at a recurring operating margin of 13.4%, 27 billion euros, and not one published line about the origin of its own cholecalciferol. That absence is the finding. Legal record. Danone's American arm has been through a federal advertising settlement, coming one entry from now. On the D3, nothing has been proven, because nobody was ever required to. Social proof. Protein counters find the D3 line from each other, never from the company. Verdict. One ingredient from clean, and that ingredient is undeclared at the source. Not the worst cup here, the most fixable and unfixed. The next one is the yogurt your grandmother bought, carrying the same silence under an older logo. Number 8. Dannon fruit on the bottom. Heritage yogurt. The white cup with the fruit layer you stir yourself, in American refrigerators since before most of us were born, sold on the idea that the fruit is real. Your test. Compare the color ingredient to the vitamin at the end. The two tell opposite stories. The published ingredient list reads cultured grade A, reduced fat milk, cane sugar, strawberries, water, modified food starch, contains less than 1% of natural flavors, lemon juice concentrate, vegetable juice for color, vitamin D3, live and active yogurt cultures. Credit first. The color is vegetable juice, not carmine. No gelatin either. Then there it is at the end. D3, source not published. And this is a breakfast yogurt, eaten daily, so whatever is in it, you are eating it every morning for years. Ownership, Danone again. Revenue hammer, the same 27,283 million euros, the same 13.4% margin, the same one sentence they will not write. Legal record. In December 2010, the Federal Trade Commission announced a settlement over what it called deceptive advertising claims for Activia and Dan Mactive. Final order approved February 4, 2011. Dannon settled, and as is standard, the order contains no admission of wrongdoing. The company has stood behind its science. It separately agreed to a $45 million class action settlement over health claims, again, without admitting liability. None of it was about gelatin or D3. Social proof. The cup people call the one their mother bought. Trust inherited, never rechecked. Verdict. The oldest name in the aisle, one letter and one number from fine, and silent about it. Which brings us to a brand that puts the animal ingredient on the front and lets you assume it does not count. Number 7. The Greek gods. Thick, rich, sold on the fantasy of a Mediterranean village. It reads artisanal, the opposite of industrial food. Your test is the easiest in the video. You do not need to turn the tub around. It says honey on the front. The published ingredient list for the Greek gods honey Greek-style yogurt is remarkably short. Cultured pasteurized grade A milk, brown cane sugar, cream, honey, pectin. 6 ingredients, no gelatin, no carmine, no added D3. By the standards of this list, a beautiful label. And still not vegan, because honey is an animal product made by bees, and every major vegan certifier in the United States excludes it. The label is honest. The problem is the health food halo, which makes people who avoid animal products drop the tub in the cart without a look. Ownership. The Hain Celestial Group. Revenue hammer. Fiscal 2025 net sales of $1,560 million, down 10%, with growth in North American yogurt named a bright spot. A company shrinking 10% does not reformulate the one line that is growing. Legal record. No ingredient enforcement action, and I will not invent one. Hain has faced shareholder litigation on unrelated matters and denied wrongdoing. On this product, the disclosure is clean. Social proof. The tub people photograph as their healthy swap. Honey reads as nature, and nature reads as permitted. Verdict. An honest label on a product that quietly disqualifies itself. Which sets up the next one, where the company writes the disqualification on its own website. Number 6. Activia. The gut health cup. Sold on bifidus, on regularity, on the promise that it does something ordinary yogurt cannot. Your test. Compare the multi-pack list to the single cup. Formulations differ by variety and by pack, so read the one in your hand. The published ingredient list for the Activia Strawberry Banana 4-pack ends. Fruit and vegetable juice for color, pectin, natural flavors, lemon juice concentrate, vitamin D3. Source undisclosed. But the published ingredient list for Activia Strawberry Banana in other pack configurations reads differently and includes milk protein concentrate, kosher gelatin, agar-agar, carrageenan, calcium lactate, lactic acid, vitamin D3, and milk calcium. Kosher gelatin. First gelatin in the countdown, so know what it is. Gelatin is a protein made by boiling animal collagen, used to thicken the cup and stop it separating on the shelf. And here is the sentence I will not let anybody put in my mouth. Danone declares kosher gelatin and does not publish whether it is bovine or fish. Kosher certification describes a processing standard, not a species. Animal-derived either way, species undisclosed. And here is the blind spot under this whole video. Gelatin does not appear on the allergen line. United States law requires that bold contains call-out for 9 things: milk, eggs, fish, shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, soybeans, and sesame. Gelatin is not one. Neither is carmine. Neither is vitamin D3. You scan the bold line, see the word milk, and think you have read the cup. That line was never built to tell you what animal is in your food. Ownership. Dan Danone. Revenue hammer. 27,283 million euros in 2025 net sales, and a formulation that changes between box sizes. Legal record. Activia is the product at the center of that FTC action, finalized February 4, 2011, which Dannon settled without admitting wrongdoing and standing behind its science. Social proof, and this is the pivot. Who buys Activia? People managing digestion. People whose doctor said try probiotics. People keeping kosher or halal who avoid gelatin on principle, scanning for this exact word. Buried after less than 1%. Verdict. A health product where the formula changes between packages of the same flavor, and the animal ingredient stays species anonymous. Read every pack. The next brand actually tells you the species. Somehow that is worse. Number 5. Noosa. Australian branding, pull tab lid, a price that makes you feel like you are buying something better. Thick enough to stand a spoon in, talked about like a dessert you are allowed. Your test. Open the company's own frequently asked questions page on your phone while you stand in front of the case. 11 seconds. Because Noosa does something almost nobody here does. On its own published FAQ, the company states that its yogurt contains kosher gelatin, identifies that gelatin as bovine in origin, and acknowledges that the product may not be acceptable to vegetarian consumers. That is the manufacturer, in writing, telling you their product is not vegetarian, bovine, cattle. Stated by the company, not inferred by me. And Noosa is built on honey. The same FAQ notes the honey is not pasteurized and advises parents to consult a pediatrician before serving it to infants under 12 months. 2 animal products in 1 tub, plus the dairy, all published by the company. Ownership moves fast. Noosa was part of Sovos Brands, acquired by the Campbell's Company in March 2024, then sold to Lakeview Farms, completed February 24, 2025. 2 owners in under a year. So what is a formulation commitment worth when a brand changes hands twice in 12 months? Revenue hammer. Noosa carries a real premium per ounce, sold to you as craft, as quality. Part of what you pay extra for is bovine gelatin. Legal record. Nothing to report, and that is the point. Nothing to enforce when the company already told the truth. Social proof. The reviews are full of people who love this tub and had no idea. Not because it was hidden, because nobody reads an FAQ before dessert. Verdict. The most transparent non-vegan yogurt in America. Fully disqualified and fully honest about it. The next one is neither. Subscribe if you would rather hear this from us now than find it out from a stranger in a comment section 3 years from now. Number 4. Dannon Light Plus Fit. The Diet Cup. 80 calories. Non-fat. The name is literally the 2 words the American diet industry has sold since 1980. What people eat when they have decided this week will be different. Your test. Find the phrase, less than 1%. Then read the 4 ingredients after it. The published ingredient list for Light Plus Fit Strawberry Non-Fat reads, cultured non-fat milk, strawberries, water, modified food starch, cane sugar, less than 1% natural and artificial flavors, vegetable juice for color, kosher gelatin, sucralose, acesulfame potassium, sodium citrate, malic acid, cultures. Kosher gelatin, in the diet yogurt, in the cup marketed to the most label-conscious shopper in the store. Again, precisely, Danone declares kosher gelatin and does not publish whether it is bovine or fish. What is not in doubt is that gelatin is animal collagen. Now sit with the engineering. Remove the fat and the texture collapses, so you rebuild the mouthfeel with a collagen-based gel. The animal ingredient is in this cup because the product is marketed as light. Ownership, Danone revenue hammer. That 13.4% margin is not an accident. Starch and gelatin are cheaper than cream. You pay a premium for a cup that costs less to build. Legal record. The same FTC order finalized February 4, 2011, and the same $45 million class action settlement, both resolved without admission of wrongdoing, the company standing behind its claims. Social proof. One of the most heavily reviewed yogurt lines in America, and the same discovery repeats. People who have eaten it daily for years, learning about the gelatin from a stranger in a comment thread instead of from the company. Yes, the word is on the cup. 6-point type, a run-on clause, after a sweetener, on a package engineered to stop you turning it around. Verdict, the animal ingredient exists because of the diet claim, not despite it. How is that legal? Completely. That is the problem. Coming up at number 2, the plant-based yogurt that got pulled off shelves by a federal announcement. At number 1, 3 animal-derived ingredients in a single cup. But first, the one you have almost certainly handed to a child. Number 3, Go-Gurt, and with it, Trix yogurt. Not really yogurt in the cultural sense. Lunchbox items. Parents buy them by the 32 count. Schools serve them. Bought on autopilot. Your test? Pull 1 tube. The ingredient statement is wrapped around a cylinder, in the smallest legible type in the dairy case. Not an accident. A design outcome. The published ingredient list for Go-Gurt low-fat yogurt reads, cultured grade A non-fat milk, sugar, modified food starch, contains 1% or less of kosher gelatin, tricalcium phosphate, cornstarch, natural flavor, citric acid, vegetable juice for color, potassium sorbate, vitamin A acetate, vitamin D3. Kosher gelatin and vitamin D3, two of the three hidden ingredients in a product formulated for 6-year-olds. Species of the gelatin, not disclosed. Source of the D3, not disclosed. And Trix yogurt carries D3 in the base and again in the cereal pieces, alongside red 40, yellow 6, and blue 1. Now picture the buyer, a vegetarian parent, a Hindu, Muslim, or kosher-keeping family that avoids gelatin as a matter of faith, picking up a 32-count box for a child's lunches. The front says yogurt, calcium, vitamin D, made with real milk. Every one of those claims is true, and the word gelatin is on the tube, sideways, in type the height of a grain of rice. Ownership, and most people have not caught up. Go-Gurt, Trix yogurt, Yoplait, Whey, and Mountain High are no longer General Mills products in the United States. On June 30, 2025, Lactose USA completed its acquisition of General Mills' United States yogurt business, part of a North American transaction valued at roughly $2.1 billion. Revenue hammer, $2.1 billion, and Lactose is a privately held French family company, the largest dairy group on Earth. Your child's lunchbox now answers to no public shareholders and no analyst asking about reformulation. Legal record, no enforcement action. Everything is disclosed exactly as the law requires, which is the whole indictment. Social proof. Ask any parent what is in a Go-Gurt tube. They say yogurt. They say sugar. Not 1 in 50 says gelatin, and they have bought hundreds. Verdict: 2 animal-derived ingredients and the smallest print in the store. You would never accept that on a medication label. Number 2. Higher Harvest by H-E-B, dairy-free coconut yogurt. Yes, it is a store brand. That is exactly why it belongs this high. Because here is the promise it makes. You already walked away from the dairy case. You made the harder, more expensive choice, specifically to escape everything I have described. A bigger trust than Yoplait ever asked for. Your test. Look for a third-party certified vegan logo. Not the words plant-based, not dairy-free. And here is why. Because this is the first plant-based product here. In the United States, the word vegan has no legal definition. The FDA does not define it, enforce it, or audit it. Plant-based tells you nothing about gelatin, honey, or the source of the vitamin D. Plant-based is not automatically vegan. Certified vegan, from a third-party certifier, is the only version anybody is accountable for. Now the hard record. On December 19, 2025, the FDA published a recall announcement from Plant-Based Innovations of Leominster, Massachusetts, for Higher Harvest, by H-E-B dairy-free coconut yogurt. Strawberry flavor, 5.3-ounce cups with a best-by date of January 2, 2026, because the product may contain undeclared almond. It was triggered by a customer complaint. No illnesses were reported. The company recalled voluntarily, and I want that on the record. Understand what this proves and what it does not. Not that the yogurt contained animal products. There is no evidence it did, and I will not claim it. What it proves is structural. A plant-based yogurt sold under a supermarket's own health-forward sub-brand was made by a co-packer in another state, on lines running multiple formulations, and what came out did not match the cup. So if an ingredient statement can be wrong about almonds, a mandated allergen with real legal exposure, and the FDA watching, how much confidence belongs in an unaudited, undefined word like vegan on the same package? Ownership and revenue. H-E-B is a privately held Texas grocer with revenue in the tens of billions, and the manufacturer is a contract producer most buyers have never heard of. Legal record. A voluntary recall. No enforcement action. Nothing for anybody to deny. Social proof. The most careful shoppers in the store still could not catch it. Nobody reads a co-packing schedule. Verdict. The aisle you fled to is not a sanctuary. It is a different set of promises, made largely by the same corporations, verified by almost nobody. And now the one that started this video. Number 1. Yoplait Original Strawberry. Not the unhealthiest cup in the dairy case. The most betraying. The yogurt of American normalcy. The fluted white cup with the foil lid you peel back and lick. The school cafeteria. Your mother's grocery list. In American dairy cases since the 1970s. Your test. 6-ounce cup. Original strawberry. Read straight to the end. Do not stop at milk. The manufacturer's published ingredient list reads, cultured grade A low-fat milk, sugar, strawberries, modified food starch, water, contains 1% or less of kosher gelatin, cornstarch, carmine for color, pectin, natural flavor, vitamin A acetate, vitamin D3. Count them: kosher gelatin, carmine, vitamin D3, 3 animal-derived or animal-associated ingredients in one 6-ounce cup, none of them on the allergen line. Carmine needs explaining, because this is the first time it appears. Carmine, also called cochineal extract, is a crimson pigment made from the dried bodies of insects, not derived from, made from. That is the red in your strawberry yogurt. And here is what puts this at number 1. Yoplait tells you, not on the cup, where it would cost sales. On their own corporate frequently asked questions page, where you have to go looking. The company states in writing that it uses gelatin in some of its yogurts to prevent separation and hold texture through shelf life, and that it is certified kosher dairy. On Carmine, it acknowledges that most of its products do not contain it, but that the flavors which do will list it, explains that the color is sourced from cochineal beetle shells in purified form, notes that it is FDA approved, and says the company is exploring quality substitutes. Exploring. Read that word again. Somebody inside that building knows exactly how the average shopper would react. Legal record, and they are right that it is legal. The FDA published the final rule on January 5, 2009, requiring cochineal extract and carmine to be declared by their common or usual name, with a compliance date of January 5, 2011. Driven by reports of severe allergic reactions, including anaphylaxis, and a citizen petition filed by the Center for Science in the Public Interest in 1998. Before 2011, this could legally be labeled artificial color. It took a federal rulemaking to force the word carmine onto that cup. Nothing about it was voluntary. Now the accumulation. 1 cup a day for 10 years is 3,650 cups. Somebody who went vegetarian in college and never wavered has eaten 3,650 servings of gelatin and of an insect-derived pigment, and would have been horrified on day 1. Ownership. As of June 30th, 2025, Yoplait in the United States is a Lactalis brand. Revenue hammer, on the shelf. Original is 6 ounces. Whips, same family, is 4 ounces, and its published list carries both kosher gelatin and vitamin D3. Same additives, less product. Social Proof, the most recognized yogurt brand in America. And it published the Beetle answer itself. Millions of cups a year, to people who would stop in a heartbeat. Verdict, the only brand here that documented the case against itself, and kept selling. They know, they wrote it down, they say they are looking for a replacement, so what are they waiting for? That is the 10, now 3, that held up under exactly the same scrutiny, not consolation picks, and I will give you the honest downside of each. Best option number 3, So Delicious Coconut Milk Yogurt. Started in the 1980s in Eugene, Oregon, when dairy alternatives were for people with real allergies and nowhere else to go. Not a trend brand. It predates the trend by 3 decades. The published ingredient list for So Delicious plain coconut milk yogurt reads: organic coconut milk of filtered water and organic coconut cream. Organic cane sugar, rice starch, contains 2% or less of calcium citrate, pectin, live and active cultures, vitamin D2, vitamin B12. 9 ingredients. Pectin as the thickener, not gelatin. And critically, vitamin D2, the plant form. Exactly the decision every dairy brand on the failing list declined to make. Verification, a vegan claim, plus non-GMO project verified, gluten-free, and OU kosher. Third-party marks, not self-descriptions. Sensory and price, looser and sweeter than Greek yogurt. Better in smoothies than off a spoon. Under $2.50 a cup. Honest downside, 3 of them. Low protein, so this is no replacement for a Greek cup. The sweetened varieties contain added cane sugar, so buy unsweetened if that matters. And So Delicious is owned by Danone, the corporation behind 4 entries on the failing list. Buying it is a vote for the product, not a boycott of the company, and I will not pretend otherwise. Best option number 2, Chobani Oat, the non-dairy line. Same founder, same New York company, different formulation, and it earns its place for one reason that has nothing to do with the ingredient list. In February 2019, the Vegetarian Resource Group, an independent nonprofit interrogating food companies about ingredient origins since 1982, published its finding that the natural flavors in Chobani's non-dairy yogurt are vegan. Natural flavors is the most opaque phrase on an American label. It can legally cover animal-derived material, and it almost never gets explained. Almost no company answers that question. Chobani answered, and a third party published the answer under its own name. Ingredients: a short base of oat milk, cane sugar, fruit, and pectin, with live and active cultures. No gelatin, no carmine, no vitamin D3 in the formulations I reviewed. Check the flavor in your hand, because they differ. Sensory and price: rounder and grainier than coconut, a faint oat sweetness. About $2 a cup. Honest downside: a plant-based product from a company whose core business is cow's milk, and which announced a $1.2 billion dairy plant in April 2025. If your objection to dairy is ethical rather than dietary, you have to decide how you feel about that. I am not deciding it for you, and availability is inconsistent. Best option number 1. Silk dairy-free yogurt alternative. At this since 1977, when it began as a soy company in Boulder, Colorado, long before there was money in it. What it does, that nobody else here does, and this is why it is number 1. It carries the actual certified vegan mark, a third-party certification from an organization whose entire function is auditing ingredient sourcing down the supply chain, including inputs that never appear on a label. Certification fills the gap the law leaves, and Silk paid for it. The published ingredient list for Silk Vanilla Greek-style coconut milk dairy-free yogurt reads: coconut milk of filtered water and coconut cream, water, pea protein, cane sugar, contains 2% or less of natural flavors, pectin, calcium phosphate, cinnamon, salt, live and active cultures, vitamin D2. 11 ingredients: pea protein for structure, pectin for set, vitamin D2 for fortification. The plant form again, chosen on purpose, and the line is non-GMO project verified. Sensory and price: genuinely thick from the pea protein, the closest thing in the plant aisle to the texture people miss when they leave dairy. Commonly $1.49 to $2.29 a cup, and the most likely of the three to be in stock. A perfect product you cannot buy is not a recommendation. Honest downside: the same one. Silk is a Dan-owned brand. The best certified vegan yogurt in the American mass market is owned by the company behind Light Plus Fit, Activia, Oikos, and Dannon Fruit on the bottom. That is not hypocrisy on your part. It is the shape of the industry, and it is leverage. Every unit sold is a data point in a Dannon spreadsheet, arguing that the certified vegan line is the one that grows. So here is the practical rule. It works on any yogurt in any store in the country, and it takes 15 seconds. Ignore the front: light, fit, natural, simple, real, Greek, plant-based, dairy-free, wholesome. None of those words is legally defined in a way that protects you. The front is an advertisement. The back is a disclosure. Do not stop at the allergen line. That bold contains line covers 9 major allergens and nothing else. Gelatin, carmine, D3, and honey are not among them. Read everything after the words less than 1%. That phrase is the trapdoor. Learn 4 flags. Gelatin in any form, including kosher gelatin, which names a certification standard and not a species. Carmine, cochineal, or natural red 4. Vitamin D3, also written as cholecalciferol, and honey. That is the entire skill. Prefer D2 over D3. D2 is the plant form. If it says D3 and no source is published, treat it as unresolved. On plant-based products, look for a third-party certified vegan mark, and nothing less. If there is no mark, email the company. What is the source of your vitamin D, and are your natural flavors plant origin? The silence tells you as much as the answer. And when you find one you like, buy it every week. These decisions get made by category managers reading velocity reports, and the only sentence they read is the one your receipt writes. Here is what I keep coming back to. Somebody watching this has been vegetarian for 11 years, or vegan for 6, or keeps halal, or keeps kosher, and avoids gelatin because their faith asks it. And they have eaten one of these cups every morning, certain they were living by a decision they made long ago. That certainty was not naive. It was reasonable. They read the label. They read the allergen line. They saw the word milk, and had no way of knowing the most consequential ingredients were the ones the law never required anybody to flag. You were not fooled. You were kept uninformed, deliberately, by companies with combined revenues in the tens of billions, who employ people whose whole job is knowing how you would react if the front said what the back says. Yoplait wrote it down themselves. They know. The good news is, you can fix this in 15 seconds tomorrow morning, with no money and no expertise. Turn the cup around. Find the words less than 1%. Read to the end. Subscribe, because there is a whole store left and we are reading every label in it. And do one more thing. Send this to the vegetarian in your family. Send it to the friend who has eaten the light one for years. Send it to the parent buying the 32-count box of tubes. They deserve to know what you know now, and they will never find it on the front of the cup. Turn it around, read it, then decide.